Hello, my name is Mickey Brown and I serve as the Director of Advocacy for the American Pain Foundation. But more importantly, I think you need to know that I'm a pain management nurse. And I'm here to talk with you today about the important role that healthcare providers must serve in advocating for people affected by pain. Why is it important for healthcare professionals to be involved as advocates? I think one thing that you must realize that each of us in our roles are credible influences. We know the infrastructure of the healthcare system, the barriers that oftentimes impede not only as us as professionals to serve patients with pain, but also for people affected by pain and their families. I think that as pairs or couples with people affected by pain, we're a powerful voice that helps balance out the emotion about what it's like to live with pain with the science of pain and why pain management is important for everybody in our nation. How would I describe a healthcare advocate from the professional field? And what are their qualities is an interesting question to entertain. I think that each of us as healthcare professionals, by nature of the work that we do, are advocates. We may not think of us that way, but we are. As you're providing care for one another, you're out there to advocate what is in the best interest to provide the right type of care, no matter if they're somebody who has diabetes or high blood pressure or pain. So if you're a healthcare professional and you're concerned about someone's pain relief, you have to be willing to advocate by doing the right type of pain assessment, creating a treatment plan with the patient and the family, and then defending that and convincing others that this is what is in the best interest to provide the right type of care for that person. So that's the nature of the work that we do. It also requires some innate qualities that we may not think about. We need to be brave, because oftentimes we will come across people who have different points of view than ours. And the pain field oftentimes brings out very powerful emotions on both sides of the story, whether somebody's extremely in favor of pain care or fearful of pain care because some of the medications that we use are opioids, and there's the big issue around fear and misunderstanding of addiction. I think it also requires for us to be willing to be stubborn, if you will, or persistent, because we have to take each step very carefully and thoughtfully to make a difference, patient by patient by patient, or what I should say is person by person by person. What are the challenges I'm going to face if I'm going to be out there and advocate for someone else, especially someone living with pain or a family member? And I will tell you that you should expect some type of pushback, because we are promoting an aspect of care that not everybody has necessarily either bought into or have the knowledge base that has a clear understanding of what it means to provide the right type of pain care. So expect that you may have some challenges when you're working through the chain of command, for example, if you're at the bedside. If you know someone is suffering with pain and maybe you don't have the right orders to take care of that pain, and you have to call the healthcare provider over you, whether it's your nurse manager if you're a nurse, or if you're a physician who wants to do a better job but feels like your colleagues aren't hearing what's going on with your patients. You have to be willing and also expect that some people may not exactly respond to you the way that you would wish. But I think the fact that we know how to work the system within our healthcare institutions and in our communities will help us be more effective in providing care. I think that we have to also realize that we will run across people that will continue to ask questions of why should I be willing to provide this type of care rather than why not. And I think we also have to realize that there are lots of myths and misconceptions that remain constant in our society at large, and it's our job to break down those barriers and those misconceptions at every teaching moment that is available to us. And it's going to take time, but the first clue or the first opportunity is to take that opportunity and not hold back. So how do you know if you're doing a good job as a pain advocate? And I'm going to tell you that you're going to know because what gets reflected back to you. If you're helping somebody living with pain or a family member achieve good pain care, you almost have immediate gratification because you're taking someone who's been suffering, and because of your influence, they have a lesser degree of suffering necessarily. Or you may even be as successful as somebody who's been in severe pain and you've been able to achieve a good treatment plan where their pain is reduced down to mild or minimal pain. People are grateful when you get them out of pain, and their family members are grateful when they feel like their loved ones have been responded to and that your presence has made a difference. I think other ways of knowing if you're effective is if you start working within your community and you get asked to come and speak about pain to different groups, whether it's your local Rotary, whether it's your Chamber of Commerce, whether it's your local community college. Another way is if you become involved with groups such as the American Pain Foundation and the Power of Pain Action Network, and you become an action leader, and you are working with others, and others want to join the cause to work with you to improve pain in your local community, in your state, or when you go to Capitol Hill with us. So these are very tangible efforts. For example, this year, through advocacy alone, through the work of many of you out there, we have 2 pain bills that are now laws for military and for veterans so they can achieve and receive better pain care. How successful can you be than something that tangible? Some key pearls that I would love to share with you today about what I've learned from people living with pain might surprise you, because they've surprised me as a pain nurse. The first thing that I learned very early on is that people living with pain hate to be called patients. And we need to remember that, because as healthcare professionals, we are constantly using the term doctor-patient. But they really want to be labeled as individuals, because they are. I've also learned that people living with pain are some of the strongest people I've ever met. Just think about it. They live each day waking up in the morning in pain and surviving each day in pain and going to bed at night in pain. I don't know if I could do that. So I do honor these folks. They're not weak. They're strong, especially those who don't want others to live their life and walk in their shoes, that are willing to speak up and speak out so they can make a difference for others. I think the other thing that I have learned immensely is that it takes an average person to do great work. I never saw myself as someone being the person to advocate for others, especially in around pain care. It's just something that seemed natural as a nurse and in my history. I grew up in the age of maternal child health when women had no rights in their birth plan. Now everybody has that right. And what I was taught was that people that make the difference in changing how we care for one another doesn't necessarily come from people like you and I, healthcare professionals. It comes from the average person who's directly affected by that. Again, it's so important for healthcare professionals to work in partnership with our citizens, because together we can change how we care for one another in our society and how we can lessen the suffering of others. So my take-home message to all of you, if you hear anything from me at all, is the first step is to take one. Thank you.